Picture this. You're walking down a quiet street. Maybe it's a cobblestone path in a city you've never visited, or a dusty trail in your hometown. The air smells faintly of rain and the light catches the leaves just so. Suddenly a shiver runs down your spine. You've been here before. Not yesterday, not last week, but before, in a way you can't explain. The faces around you, the rhythm of your footsteps, even the fleeting chirp of a bird overhead. It all feels like a scene you've already played out, a memory you didn't know you had. You pause, heart racing, and ask yourself, have I lived this moment before? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. That eerie, unshakable feeling is called déjà vu, and it's a riddle that's been tugging at the edges of human curiosity for centuries. Welcome to today's video, where we're diving headfirst into one of life's most tantalizing mysteries. Déjà vu, French for already seen, is that strange sensation where the brand new feels hauntingly old. Scientists call it a glitch in the brain, a misfire of neurons that tricks us into thinking we're reliving the past. But what if it's more than that? What if those fleeting moments of familiarity are whispers from a life you've already lived, a past existence brushing up against the present? Or maybe, just maybe, it's a peek into a reality running parallel to our own. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of this phenomenon, blending the cold, hard facts of science with the warm, shimmering possibilities of the mystical. We'll hear stories that'll make your skin tingle, explore ideas that'll twist your mind, and ask questions that might keep you up at night. Let's start with a quick trip back in time. The term déjà vu was coined in 1876 by a French philosopher named Émile Boirac, but the experience itself, it's as old as humanity. Ancient Greeks wrote about it, calling it a sign from the gods. Medieval mystics saw it as a soul's memory breaking through. Even today, in coffee shops and late-night chats, people swap tales of moments that felt too familiar to be random. So what is it? A quirk of memory? A cosmic coincidence? Or a clue to something bigger, something we're only beginning to understand? Stick with me as we unravel the science, sift through the spiritual, and meet people whose déjà vu stories might just make you wonder. What if the past isn't as far away as we think? Let's get into the meat of it. What is déjà vu, really? If you've ever had it, and chances are you have, it's that split second where the world feels like a rerun. You're sipping coffee, chatting with a friend, and bam, it's like you've hit replay on a movie you didn't know you'd seen. Scientists have been chasing this feeling down for decades, and their best guess, it's all in your head, literally. One theory says déjà vu happens when there's a tiny delay between your brain's perception and its memory processing. Imagine your mind as a busy film editor. Usually it cuts the scene and files it away smoothly. But sometimes the footage gets stuck, and your brain accidentally stamps old memory on something brand new. It's like a glitch in the matrix of your mind. Take the hippocampus, for instance. That's the part of your brain that's like a librarian for your memories. Researchers think that during déjà vu, the hippocampus might misfire, cross-wiring a fresh experience with a dusty old file. There's even evidence from epilepsy patients, people with overactive temporal lobes, who report déjà vu so intense, it's like living two lives at once. One study from the University of Leeds found that stimulating certain brain regions can trigger déjà vu on demand. Pretty wild, right? But here's where it gets juicy. Not everyone buys the "it's just a brain fart" explanation. What if that glitch isn't a mistake? What if it's a signal? Now let's flip the script and step into the spiritual side. Across cultures, déjà vu has long been seen as more than a neurological oopsie. In Hinduism and Buddhism, it's tied to reincarnation. The idea that your soul's been on this ride before, collecting memories like souvenirs across lifetimes. Picture this. You're standing in a marketplace halfway around the world, and the smell of spices hits you like a freight train of familiarity. You've never been there, but your soul has. Some folks even say déjà vu is your subconscious tapping into a past life, a fleeting hello from a version of you that once walked a different path. Ever heard of the Akashic Records? It's this mystical concept and cosmic library of every soul's journey. Maybe déjà vu is your mind accidentally flipping open a page from your own forgotten chapter. But wait, it gets weirder. Some physicists, inspired by quantum mechanics, wonder if déjà vu could hint at parallel universes. What if that moment of familiarity isn't from your past, but from a you living slightly out of sync in another timeline? Time, they say, might not be a straight line. It could be a messy, looping knot. So, when you feel that shiver of "I've been here before," are you brushing up against a shadow of yourself? Science and spirituality don't agree on much, but they both leave us with the same delicious question. Is déjà vu a trick, a memory, or a doorway to something we can't yet grasp? Let's turn the spotlight onto the real heart of déjà vu, the stories. These aren't just fleeting moments. They're experiences that linger, that nag at us, that make us question everything we think we know about memory and time. We've already met Sarah, the small-town shopper who felt like she'd walked her local supermarket's aisles in another life. But her story doesn't end with that one eerie afternoon. Sarah's journal, which she started after that first jolt, grew into a collection of dozens of déjà vu moments. One entry stands out. A rainy day when she visited an antique shop. As she brushed her fingers over a tarnished silver locket, she remembered a scene. Standing in a Victorian parlor, slipping that same locket into a velvet pouch. The shopkeeper confirmed it was from the 1880s, and Sarah, a 30-something graphic designer with no Victorian roots, was left reeling. Was it her imagination filling in gaps, or had she brushed against a past self? Then there's Mark, our commuter with the uncanny drive. That morning wasn't a one-off. Months later, he had another episode, this time at a diner. As he stirred his coffee, he knew the waitress would spill a tray of glasses before it happened. Sure enough, crash, shards everywhere. Mark scribbled it down in a notebook he now carries, and online forums lit up with replies. One user shared a theory. Maybe déjà vu isn't your memory, but a bleed-through from someone else's. Another suggested Mark's brain was predicting microseconds ahead, like a superpower he didn't know he had. Scientists might lean toward the latter. Studies show our brains can process patterns faster than we consciously register, but Mark's not so sure. "It didn't feel like a guess," he wrote. "It felt like I'd already lived it. Let's travel halfway around the world to Japan, where Aiko's story takes déjà vu to a whole new level." She was 27, a quiet office worker in Tokyo, when she stood on a bustling train platform one humid summer morning. The crowd pressed in, the train's brakes squealed, and then it hit her. A flood of images, Mangled steel, a scream cutting through smoke, her own hands trembling as she crawled from wreckage. She'd never ridden that line before, yet the memory was vivid, visceral. A voice in her head screamed, "Get off the platform." She did. 5 minutes later, that train derailed in a freak accident. 47 dead, dozens injured. Aiko told a local reporter, "It wasn't a hunch. It was a memory I don't own." Psychologists call it intuition. Parapsychologists call it a past life echo. Aiko just calls it the day she started believing in something bigger. Now let's step back in time to 1813, courtesy of Pierre, a French soldier whose diary was unearthed in a dusty archive. Picture this: cannon smoke choking the air, mud sucking at his boots, the roar of battle deafening. Mid-charge, Pierre froze. He knew the next cannonball would land 10 feet to his left, that a comrade would fall clutching his leg, that a bullet would nick his arm and leave a scar he'd carry to his grave. It all happened exactly as he saw it. Later he wrote, "I am not a prophet, yet I foresaw my fate. This war is not my first." Historians chalk it up to stress-induced hallucination. Battle does strange things to the mind, but Pierre's precision feels less random. Could he have glimpsed a past iteration of that moment? A life where he didn't survive? These stories aren't outliers. Studies peg déjà vu at 60 to 70% prevalence worldwide, with some cultures reporting even higher rates. In India, for instance, where reincarnation is woven into the fabric of belief, déjà vu often carries a sacred weight. Take Ravi, a farmer from Rajasthan. At 19, he visited the Taj Mahal for the first time, or so he thought. As he stepped onto the marble, he was hit with a memory. Kneeling in a workshop, chiseling stone, the monument rising around him. He described the tools, the dust, the chatter of artisans, details a farmer's son wouldn't know. A historian later confirmed those matched 17th century accounts of the Taj's construction. Ravi shrugs it off. "I was there, I don't know how." Skeptics say it's suggestion, his brain weaving a tale from tourist brochures. But the way his eyes light up when he tells it, that's harder to dismiss. Let's shift gears to science for a moment, because even the lab coats have stories to tell. In 2006, a team at MIT hooked volunteers up to brain scanners and tried to induce déjà vu. They flashed images, random shapes, faces, scenes, then tweaked the timing of neural signals. Some participants reported that flicker of familiarity. "I've seen this triangle before." It wasn't memory. It was the brain tricking itself. But here's the twist. A few swore the feeling went deeper, like they'd lived the moment, not just seen it. One woman, Jane, said, "It wasn't the shape. It was the room, the hum of the machine, like I'd been here in another life." The researchers scratched their heads. Was it a glitch? Or had they accidentally tapped into something stranger? Pop culture's obsessed with this too. Think of The Matrix. Neo sees a black cat twice, and Trinity whispers, "Déjà vu is a glitch in the system." It's a perfect metaphor, reality stuttering like a scratched DVD, or take Inception, where dreams layer over dreams, and time feels like a Mobius strip. Even Stranger Things toys with it. Eleven's visions blurring past, present, and maybe something else. These stories hit us because they mirror our own brushes with the uncanny. Ever watched a movie and felt like you dreamed it first? Maybe you did. Now let's meet the Traveler, that lucid dreamer we mentioned earlier. He's anonymous, a voice from online forums, but his tale's unforgettable. One night, He dreamed of a desert, red sand, a crumbling temple, a sky streaked with two suns. He walked its halls, read its carvings, in a script he'd never seen, and woke up drenched in sweat. 2 weeks later, flipping through a book on ancient Mesopotamia, he froze. A photo of ruins matching his dream down to the cracked archway. He swears he'd never studied it before. It wasn't a dream, he posted. It was a memory. Lucid dreamers like him often report déjà vu bleeding into waking life, moments where reality feels like a sequel to their sleep. Science says it's the brain recycling images. But two suns? That's not in any textbook. And here's a wild one from Brazil. Mariana, a São Paulo artist, had déjà vu that turned into art. At 23, she sketched a village she'd visited in a flash. Cobblestone streets, a church with a cracked bell, women in shawls. Years later, on a trip to Portugal, she stumbled into that exact village, Trás-os-Montes, a speck on the map she'd never heard of. Her sketch matched it perfectly, bell and all. She calls it her soul's postcard. Critics say she saw a photo once and forgot. Mariana counters, then why did I smell the bread baking too? These accounts, Sarah's locket, Mark's diner, Aiko's train, Pierre's battlefield, Ravi's Taj, Jane's triangle, the traveler's temple, Mariana's village, pile up like pieces of a puzzle we can't solve. Studies hint at neural delays or memory misfires, but the texture of these moments, the weight of them, keeps us guessing. Are they echoes of lives we've lived, glimpses of timelines we've crossed, or just our brains spinning stories? Maybe it's all three, maybe it's none, but every story adds a thread to this tapestry of wonder, pulling us deeper into the mystery of déjà vu. So, here we are, at the end of our journey, but maybe just the start of yours. Déjà vu is a slippery thing, isn't it? On one hand, science hands us a neat little box. It's a brain glitch, a hiccup in the machinery of memory. On the other, there's this vast, shimmering unknown, past lives whispering through the cracks, parallel worlds overlapping, time bending in ways we can't measure. Maybe it's both, maybe it's neither. But one thing's for sure, those moments when the familiar crashes into the new, they shake us. They make us wonder who we are, where we've been, and what's really out there. What do you think? Is déjà vu just your mind playing a clever trick? Or is it a breadcrumb trail to a deeper truth? I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment, a place, a face, a sound that felt like a memory you couldn't place? Did it leave you curious, spooked, or maybe even awestruck? Drop your story in the comments. I'll be reading everyone because honestly, your experiences are what make this mystery come alive. And if this dive into the unknown lit a spark for you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell. We've got more strange and wonderful adventures ahead. Before I go, let me leave you with this. Next time déjà vu creeps up on you, that shiver down your spine, that flicker of I've been here before, pause, breathe it in. Ask yourself, is this just my brain, or is it something more? A memory from a past you can't recall. A hello from a you that's still out there somewhere. Thanks for joining me on this ride. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and remember, the past might be closer than you think.